3 young women, 1 missing, 1 murdered, 1 kidnapped.
Now the hidden secrets that crack this case in all new 2020 starts right now.
I get a call from our sergeant. Something suspicious happened at Exxon gas station.
We're gonna get right to that Michigan mom who vanished. A massive hunt for her right now.
Everybody was asking, where is Jessica? What happened to Jessica? Have you seen Jessica? Can you find Jessica?
And she's just a hard-working girl. She just needs to come home.
You start to piece together that something violent happened in this location.
She saw this silver minivan. She thought it was kind of weird.
What these 2 individuals were witnessing in that parking lot was the abduction of Jessica Harrigan.
But that wasn't their only mystery to solve when a different crime comes into play.
Oh my gosh, who could do this? Who could hit a woman and just leave her?
To this young mother on a run being shot and killed.
This was at close range. This was certain execution style.
Here we have 2 females. One's missing, one's deceased.
And 1 other who lived to tell.
He was just staring at me the entire time. And I'm like, let me out, let me out, let me out.
At what point do you realize you're in real trouble and that you could die? This is Muskegon in West Michigan. Just south is the small community of Norton Shores, beach towns on the Sunset Coast of Lake Michigan.
I describe Muskegon as sort of a microcosm of the state of Michigan. We have our urban areas, our suburban areas, and then the eastern part and northern part of our county is more rural.
Norton Shores is a nice community on the southern edge of our county.
It's one of the most beautiful areas of West Michigan because it's right near Lake Michigan. So that's the big draw, is our lakeshore. Just absolutely gorgeous.
I have a lot of pride in coming from Muskegon County. I think it's just a really great place to live and grow up in.
When a series of apparently unconnected crimes began to sow fear into this quiet community. It all begins in the final hour of an April night when a young woman named Jessica Harrigan simply vanished, swallowed up, or so it seemed, in a mystery as vast and deep as the big lake itself. It's April 26th, 2013 in Norton Shores, Michigan at the Exxon station on East Sternberg Road. 25-year-old Jessica Harrigan is supposed to be inside closing up.
That night I needed gas, so I stopped right here. It's the closest place from my employment.
He pulled up to the gas station, noticed the door was open, and looked inside, and there was no Jessica Harrigan.
It's very strange that there's no one here.
That's what alerted the police as a customer came in and realized that there was nobody in the store.
Muskegon 911, where's your emergency?
I don't know if it's emergency. I just got alert. I'm at the Exxon gas station on Sternberg Road, and there's nobody here. It's very suspicious why there's nobody here.
There was nobody that would answer, so I looked around the store.
And what did you see when you looked around the store?
I went into the bathroom. I looked around. There was really no disturbance. Just nobody there.
Okay, so did you yell or anything, or?
Yeah, I hollered, hey, walked around the building. But I don't see anybody, hon.
I walked inside and, hey, is anybody here? I even went inside the cooler and looked inside there and seen nothing abnormal. But in my gut said something's not right.
I'm just concerned that nobody's heard of it. Why?
She has a young son that she's raising, and she was working hard trying to get extra hours at the gas station because of financial problems, and so she was covering anybody who needed a time off. She covered their shifts, and that was her only job. And she was there by herself.
The ironic thing is that she really wasn't scheduled to work the day that she disappeared. She actually had taken over a shift from somebody. The
Did Jessica ever express concerns about feeling unsafe at work?
Never. Not once. She likes working there.
So Norton Shores Police Department responded.
At the time, the head of detectives was a gentleman by the name of Mike Casher.
I get a call from our sergeant. Something suspicious happened at Exxon gas station. It's about a mile and a half away from my house.
From the crime scene photographs, when you take a first glance, the inside of the store didn't look as though it had been disturbed. There didn't look like there had been a big struggle.
There was no real crime scene.
They find nothing. In fact, that's what's so weird. It's so undisturbed.
All the cleaning supplies and things were out, so it appeared that she had been cleaning and finishing up for the night.
Then they go back into the storeroom and they find a cash register drawer with all the money, all the cash, all the change still intact.
It didn't appear that she just grabbed her stuff and left.
Her purse was still there with her jacket. Cigarettes, lighter, still there.
Inside that purse was a wallet, and it contained the identifying information for Jessica Herringa. Within that wallet, there was about $400 in cash, seemingly undisturbed.
Her car was still parked out front.
Whatever happened in this store, robbery was not the intent.
There was really no explanation as to what happened to her. It was almost like she just left, disappeared.
And now is beginning the investigation into Jessica's disappearance.
Police tonight say they have evidence that backs up their theory that a Norton Shores woman was abducted from the gas station where she worked. I'm Juliette Dragus. The news starts in 1 minute. It sounded very odd, that she just disappeared. So we all wondered, what is going on here?
At the time, that location did not have a camera system or anything.
No security cameras, and I don't think she should have been working by herself. And I used to talk to her about it and ask her about it. And of course, 25 years old, you think you're invincible.
My goal was right at the beginning is to establish a timeline because I figured it would help us at some point.
So about 10:52, we had a woman who had went in and purchased a cigarette lighter, and that was the last person to see Jessica alive.
The last sale that was recorded here was at 10:52. You were here at the gas station like 11:07,
11:08.
11:07, he pulls up. He doesn't see anybody. So sometime between 10:52 and 11:07, we have her missing.
And that was the start, if you will, of what turned into be a very public and national cold case.
Police continue to search for a missing woman from Norton Shores.
The biggest story in all of West Michigan for months and months and months.
The first big break is a page out of Agatha Christie.
As they look, and they keep looking, they see a drop of blood.
Then a woman who worked another shift at the gas station approaches detectives.
She and her husband saw this silver minivan back behind the Exxon gas station. She thought that was strange.
Played an extremely important role helping to move the initial investigation forward.
A drop of blood, a silver minivan, and one more small caliber clue. The search for Jessica Herringer ricochets in a totally different and dire direction.
We are now prepared to reclassify this case as an abduction.
We're going to get right to that Michigan mom who vanished.
Search for a young mom who vanished
while working the late shift.
Vanished without a trace.
Jessica Herringer disappeared. It was a very big deal in her area.
Everybody was asking, where is Jessica? What happened to Jessica? Have you seen Jessica? Can you find Jessica? How can we help?
The media was very involved in this case.
This expands beyond the borders of Muskegon County and becomes national news. The nation is looking for Jessica Herringer.
A massive hunt for her right now. ABC's Alex Perez is in Norton Shores, Michigan, with the latest. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Robin. Overnight, Jessica's family desperately waited for any word from police, but no luck.
She was going to get out in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, that store would have been closed, and she would have been on her way home.
Flyers were presented to the community. They were everywhere.
If somebody sees something doesn't even know how important it is yet.
Is there any more flyers that I can get? Because I will put them up for you. Like, I'll stick a couple around for you.
Let's join together in prayer to call upon you for Jessica's safe return.
There were vigils, they passed out flyers, they were on our air very regularly, saying, please, Jessica, come home. If you have her, bring her home. We want you back.
She just needs to come home.
The small Norton Shores police force gets reinforcements. Michigan State Police, Muskegon County Sheriff, the FBI, and even the Secret Service.
Helicopter searches, police canines were involved in ground searches.
A lot of people in our newsroom thought, did she just leave? Is she having personal problems? Could she have just done this because she just had to get away?
It doesn't make any sense. She wouldn't take her purse. She wouldn't take her car. She loved her son. Her son, Zevin, meant everything to her.
Jessica may have vanished, but not without a trace.
And one of the officers said, I think we need to look at something back here. It's kind of weird.
And lo and behold, they discover, I think, some very important pieces of evidence.
Probably about 3 or 4 feet from the back door, we saw probably about $half size of a blood spot.
Jessica Haringa. It was Jessica Haringa's blood.
And then next to that was these 2 little round batteries that appeared to be like watch batteries.
There was a small black piece of plastic that had the words Carl Walther written on it.
That was later determined to be a cover for a laser sight from a handgun.
Detectives determined that battery-powered Walther laser sight is commonly attached to a specific gun, the Walther P-22 semi-automatic pistol.
But it also could fit a couple other guns. It could have fit a BB gun, I was told, too, at the same time. So it wasn't like, okay, it's only for this specific gun.
Then a woman named Susan Follett, who worked a different shift at the gas station, approaches detectives.
She came up to me and she goes, I think I saw something. Which I'm like, okay, what'd you see?
She and her husband were out riding motorcycles, and she saw this silver minivan. She thought it was kind of weird.
This happens right around 11 p.m., right in that 15-minute window when Jessica disappeared.
The van ducks behind the gas station. Doesn't go out in front where the pumps are. Goes behind the gas station, which at that time of the night, it's kind of weird. It turned off its lights and then parked behind the store.
There's no reason for a customer to go back and park their car.
Suspecting someone may be stealing, the worker and her husband stop nearby, just watching. They say they only see the driver. He gets out of the minivan. He's doing something. They're not sure what.
They see the tailgate of the van go up, because they recall seeing the dome light.
Pushes the tailgate down, doesn't go, pops it up and adjusts something. Shuts the tailgate, gets in the van, and drives away. Drives right by them.
When the van was leaving, Susan gets a look at the van driver, as good as you can in the dark.
And it was a male, somewhat heavy set, brownish hair, beard, mustache. And they described the van as being silver in color.
I wish they would have at least gone and seen if Jess was okay. I'm sorry.
They didn't see Jessica. They didn't think anything. Well, maybe there's nothing to report.
But for the police, what the witnesses say they saw, along with the blood and pieces of a gun, are powerful evidence.
When you couple how the witnesses described what was going on behind the gas station with laser sight cover and a spot of blood, you start to piece together that something violent happened in this location.
I felt that the van was crucial because it was parked right where those parts were found.
What these two individuals were witnessing in that parking lot was the abduction of Jessica Harrington.
Police pull surveillance video from several businesses, shadowy images of that mysterious silver minivan driving by within minutes of Jessica Harrington's disappearance.
We're able to determine that this van is now going northbound on Grand Haven Road.
But that's where the trail of the silver minivan fades to black.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Shaw. I'm the Chief of Police for the Norton Shores Police Department.
2 days later, police hold a news conference.
We are now prepared to reclassify this case as an abduction or a kidnapping under Michigan law.
But police don't reveal everything they found to the public.
And we have parts of a gun that we didn't disclose to the public.
So at this point, our only clue is the white male that I described to you and the silver minivan.
Anybody knows anything, call the hotline. That's all I like to say. Nah, I think I'm done now, man.
Who would have a motive to take Jessica Harrington? The investigation now turns to secrets of her love life, including a married man.
He asked her to move away, and she said no. She was going to stay put. An hour later, she's missing.
Jessica is described as a white female, 25 years of age, 5 foot 1 inches tall, approximately 110 pounds, blonde shoulder-length hair, and blue eyes.
We love her very much. We miss her.
Is the most difficult part. It's just not knowing and not having the answers and not being able to be there for her. You know, I'm sure she's scared and doesn't know what to do, or I just hope she knows that we're all looking for her and we're going to find her.
The police did. I mean, they really did rely on the media for help, as everyone held out hope that she could be found. So they released a sketch of a gentleman. This is a man that they're looking for, a man of interest. If you've seen him or you recognize, or the silver minivan, that was always the prevalent thing, looking for that silver minivan.
Due to the fact that there's no signs of a disturbance within the store, we tend to believe it is someone either that she knows, like an acquaintance, or someone that she knows through the store, maybe a customer or someone that she has met before.
She was always trying to make people smile, be happy, love life. Sad to think that that great quality was probably a downfall in this situation, you know.
We're here because we have not given up hope for Jessica's safe return.
We're receiving numerous tips from the public, which we truly appreciate, but we need more.
And boy, did we get a lot of calls and a lot of sightings. To our newsroom, probably hundreds. And people thought they saw her at a campground up north. They thought they had seen her at a store.
Officer Leach, Norton Shores Police Department, to the Jessica Harrington case.
People were saying they saw her in Arizona, and they saw her in New Jersey, and I got somebody in Chicago that acts suspicious.
Every tip that was brought in was taken seriously and investigated.
Yeah, there was quite a long list of potential suspects when we were looking at the Harrington case.
She was abducted. Someone took her.
One of the first people they did talk to was her boyfriend. And, you know, because he admitted to them that they did have a rocky relationship.
I saw her right before she went to work. And I talked to her an hour before this happened. Said she was going to be out early and home quick, so.
I mean, obviously we always think right off the bat, maybe there is a problem with the relationship.
Anybody knows anything, call the hotline. That's all I like to say.
He's the one who called me to tell me that she was missing. He's devastated about the whole thing. This is the mother of his child. They were in love. He had asked her to marry him, and we think Dakota's part of the family.
Dakota is quickly excluded as a suspect, detectives turning their attention to other men in Jessica's life.
Jessica Herringo was pretty. She was a pretty blonde. People even would say, there's a good-looking lady who works at that gas station.
There were other people of interest in her life that would frequent the gas station.
What we had heard is that she may have had a boyfriend or two, in addition to the father of her baby.
Police say Jessica was having a relationship with a regular at the gas station, a married man.
His name came up multiple times. He was always in the gas station, always around. And he said that, they had some type of an intimate type relationship going.
The week before Jessica's disappearance, police say the man's wife had come into the gas station to confront Jessica.
She found out about the relationship, entered in, and tried to make contact with Jessica, kind of talk with her about it. And Jessica got upset and told her to get out of the store, which she did.
Police say Jessica had a tearful talk, maybe a breakup with the married man just hours before she vanished.
An hour before she went missing, just an hour beforehand, they had an emotional, his quote was, we had an emotional discussion. He asked her to go away with him, to move away, and she said no, she was going to stay put. An hour later, she's missing.
Is there love triangles or jealous lovers out there that, got so enraged with jealousy that they went to the extreme to solve that issue?
I called him a suspect for a good probably year. We checked phone records, we got search warrants, we brought in polygraph twice for him and his wife. But ultimately, he's innocent and he had no involvement.
Detectives crossed the married man and his wife off their list. Another dead end.
Started out as it looks really, really good, and it ends up melting right in your hand, right down to it.
All those suspects, all those tips to police here, but still no Jessica. Weeks, months, a full year goes by with no word about the missing woman.
The tips start dwindling, so they're not getting as many tips, not hearing anything more about the silver minivan. There was nothing more investigators could do, so we also stopped covering it.
As 2013 becomes 2014, her case colder than a West Michigan winter. And then, some miles away, in another part of Muskegon County, another young mother, not lost, found dead.
911, where is your emergency?
We come up to this lady, she's laying in the road.
Oh my gosh, who could do this? Oh, who could hit a woman and just leave her?
Could there be a connection?
Turn on the road that Becky used to jog or walk on. This is Automobile Road.
It was a Sunday evening, late June 2014, when a couple was driving here along Automobile Road in Muskegon County.
In the middle of the summer, 6 o'clock in the evening.
Suddenly, they saw something in the road, maybe a deer, but soon discovered it was worse, much worse.
911, where is your emergency?
It's on Automobile Road. We come up to this lady, she's laying in the road. I think she was hit by a car.
Okay.
She's got a head injury.
Okay, we gotta start CPR if she's not breathing normally. I want you to go ahead and start.
This is dashcam video from the first Muskegon County Sheriff's deputy arriving on the scene. You can see an EMS worker rushing in to help the 911 callers.
The wife is a nurse, and she was trying to see what she could do.
It started out initially a hit and run. She was found on the side of the road. She was in running gear, so she'd been out for a run.
Oh my gosh, who cooking with us. Who could hit a woman and just leave her?
And unfortunately, shortly after she was discovered, she succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene.
The woman is Rebecca Blett. She lives just down the road. And as they place her in the ambulance, police are stunned to find her death was no accident.
In the back of her head, she's got 3 bullet wounds.
Rebecca Bletch's case went from a hit and run to a homicide.
So it was a shooting, murder.
People were crying, people were upset, people were scared. I was scared. I was scared to be in my own yard.
Rebecca's sister Jessica sees a report of a woman killed on Facebook.
And then I called her, and she didn't answer. So then I called her again, no answer. So then I called her daughter.
She called me and asked if my mom was home. I said, no, I don't know where she's at.
I said, where's her dad? She said, he's outside talking to the police. And I knew it was her.
Rebecca's daughter Ellie says her grandmother told her what happened.
My dad was outside and my grandma was inside. Told me.
She used to jog by here all the time. Very nice, friendly girl. Always would say hi, how you doing, whatnot when she went through.
From all accounts, she was just a nice person.
Everyone just loved Rebecca Bletch.
Tell me about your sister. Becky was the oldest of the 3 of us sisters. Kind of more of a mother to us in times of need. Absolutely great spirit, big laugh, great smile. Always the life of the party. You couldn't help but know that she was there. She walked in a room, you knew.
What was she like as a mom?
Very involved. He was very active with Ellie.
She loved to go on runs, bike rides, walks through the woods.
At the crime scene, police find Rebecca's belongings, cell phone, sunglasses, earbuds, all in a neat pile across the road from her body.
Why was her body on one side of the road and these items in a nice little pile on the opposite side of the road?
I mean, it only seems that someone would have ordered her to take off, everything that she had and set it down.
Investigators speculate that after the killer forced Rebecca to put her things down, she tried to get away.
I think when she realized what was happening, I think she tried to run.
There was a trail of casings that went from the middle of the road and then toward her body, 3 different casings.
I think he hit her with the first shot and it knocked her down and she tried to crawl away. And this is where she made it until he walked over to her and...
The killer shoots Rebecca 3 times with a .22 caliber gun. Investigators recover CCI brand shell casings.
This was at close range. This was certainly execution style. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason as to why on a Sunday afternoon that she would be targeted and killed in such a fashion.
And the only witnesses are my horses. They absolutely stood at that fence and watched it, I can guarantee you. If they could only talk, they would have got this solved a lot quicker.
Jessica Haringa's disappearance and Rebecca Bletch's murder were never really tied together. I mean, people speculated and wondered.
Here we have 2 females that are, one's missing, one's deceased, but there were no real strong ties.
I made a call. I always do. Hey, what kind of description do you have?
He just couldn't see how these 2 were related.
There was no mention of a silver minivan, any minivan of that nature, being anywhere in that area at the time that she was shot and killed.
There is one possible connection. Firearms experts say that the .22 caliber shell casings found near Rebecca's body may have been fired by a Walther .22 pistol. And that's the same kind of gun possibly involved in Jessica's case.
It was explained to us that the characteristics left by the firing pin of the gun that was used to kill Rebecca Bletch was very similar to what they've seen a Walther P22 would have left.
Unconvinced their cases are related, investigators turn their attention to the person closest to Rebecca.
They were focused on her husband. They really decided that he must have done it.
At any point, did you guys think maybe he did it?
It never crossed my mind.
You guys never thought it was her husband?
No.
Because he would never do anything like that. He's not like that.
It was determined that he didn't have anything to do with this crime.
With Kevin Bletch cleared of any involvement in his wife's death, her murder is unsolved.
I hate to call it a cold case because we were still actively working on it and we didn't stop. But we had no solid leads. We had nothing.
Well, what happened was an incident that blew the case open, that changed everything.
This Upick and Blueberry Farm seems an unlikely place to solve cold cases. The Jessica Herringa disappearance, the .22 caliber killing of Rebecca Bletch. But police say an incident that happened just down the road from here, and what these security cameras see puts it all into focus.
I jumped out of the car.
What kind of car was it?
A van.
What color was the van?
Silver.
That was the turning point.
Where's your emergency?
Please come immediately. We have a man that has picked up a girl and he has a gun and he's outside the house.
Stay on the line with me. Who has a gun?
April of 2016, we received a 911 call from a homeowner who just had a young lady come running up to her house, screaming, saying that somebody was trying to kidnap her.
Is it the female, the girl is still there?
Hysterical right now and I'm shaking. So.
Okay, can I talk to her?
Yeah, here she is. Oh. Hello.
Hi, this is 911, okay?
They're coming. Are you coming?
Yep, we're gonna get some help there.
That phone call, that was the turning point.
Jessica Herringa vanished in April 2013. Rebecca Bletch shot and killed in June 2014. Try as they might, frustrated detectives in Norton Shores and Muskegon County cannot solve either crime.
Two cold cases unsolved for years, no arrests, until a scary 911 call after a teenage girl runs for her life on this very road.
I had to jump out of a car. I had to run to her house. It's funny.
Who was it?
I don't even know him. I was like, please let me out right now. Please let me out.
A young teenager by the name of Madison Nygaard finds herself walking home in a rural part of Muskegon County after attending an all-night party.
Walk us through what that night was like. What was this party? They had a big old bonfire, and then everyone left and went to a different party. So then I started walking home.
Oh, so you were out all night?
All night long. All night.
It's early in the morning. She's walking along the road.
Did you know where you were? No. But I figured, like, all people figure it out.
Did you have a cell phone?
I did have a phone, but it was dead.
By now, Madison is lost and in tears.
Instead of taking a left and going towards town, I took a right and went towards the lake. I'm crying at this point.
A silver minivan pulls up. Hey, do you need a ride? The man in the minivan said to her.
I was like, no, absolutely not. Can I please just use your phone? And he was like, yeah, just come on, get in. And I was like, okay. So I got in.
She got in the car, and he took off.
I don't know why she decided to hop in that car, but I think she was just really desperate at that point.
So you get in the car. You get in the car, he rolls up the window and locks the doors. I'm still crying.
And I feel bad because I think he's a nice guy. So I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to be mean, but please roll my window back down.
The man in the minivan turns off the main road onto more isolated North Green Creek Road, not where Madison wants to go.
She didn't know where she was, but she knew enough to where that was definitely the wrong direction.
I asked to use his cell phone. It was like it's dead. And he's just staring at me the entire time. And I'm like, let me out, let me out, let me out. And he's just staring at me. And then that's when he reached under and grabbed his gun.
He's now pointing a gun at her. She has two choices, really. One, just submit and hope for the best. Or two, run.
As soon as I saw the gun, I was out. I unlocked the door and he jumped.
So you were in the vehicle and jumped out? Okay.
When she jumped right out of her shoes, rolled, got road rash, they found broken fingernails. She was going to get away from this man.
You haven't been back over here.
No.
Madison has moved on, so she has not been back to the scene of her death-defying leap until this moment, when she agreed to go back to show us what happened.
I remember running completely down this road.
Did you look back?
I did look back. And that's when he was like standing there with his gun aimed at me. And I'm just like, don't kill me, please don't kill me.
Did you say that to him?
Yeah. I was like, please do not. Like, I have family. And he was like, it's just a joke, come back, come back.
It's a joke.
Yeah. And I was like, absolutely not. And I just kept running.
There were 2 unspent .22 cartridges lying in the road.
I think those 2 live rounds were because the gun itself jammed. We believe we pulled the trigger, it jammed up, and so you rack it, get that round out, so you get the next round. Somehow it jammed up again.
Were you assaulted at all?
No. But I need to go to the hospital. I jump out of his car wide open.
Okay. Do you want an ambulance?
Yeah.
She was very lucky. She was very bold to be able to jump out of a vehicle. I don't know how many people would have done that.
Takes a lot of fortitude, and she had what it took to save herself.
He chased me. He was chasing me.
Where was he chasing you?
In his house.
And you don't know where he went?
No.
Now deputies are on a van hunt, driving up and down country roads looking for telltale surveillance cameras.
When they said they were looking for anyone with video, I thought, they're not going to find anyone with video, especially in that stretch where she was.
Police figure find the silver minivan solve the Madison Nygaard case. But what detectives never figured on, finding that ordinary minivan would be the key to solving 2 more cold case mysteries.
The detective asked if he could see the video. I said, sure. He wasn't up there 4 or 5 minutes. And he says, I see it. He just pulled through the lot.
When Madison got away and they were able to connect the dots, were you surprised? I was very shocked that one individual could have been responsible for 3 women. He really is a monster. Who lives with secrets that dark?
Jessica Haringey's disappearance and Rebecca Bletch's murder.
Here we have 2 females that are, one's missing, one's deceased.
But how do they connect? And how do they connect to a new victim?
They showed the 16-year-old girl and she said, that's the man who pointed a gun at me who tried to kill me.
I'm trying to tell you, all right? I'm gonna go. This is for me. We're not here to have a kitchen mess with you. I got a couple more things to say.
Bells and whistles started going off of, holy cats, what have we stumbled upon here?
That's a medical diagram on where to inject someone.
They discovered a file folder labeled VICS, V-I-C-S.
Inside the house, we found some recording equipment, almost like a covert hidden type camera. A significant amount of bleach bottles in the basement of this house.
They They found evidence after evidence after evidence. I mean, it did blow the case wide open.
He's saying he didn't kill her, but he was there.
Can you tell me anything?
They questioned me so hard.
He just kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
It makes me shudder. I get goosebumps to think what they found.
The first questions are easy. What's your name?
Madison.
And spell that for me.
Madison.
We have the 911 call. And I want to play it for you.
Okay.
Speaking 911, what is your emergency?
He just told me he was going to let me use his phone, so I got in and then he wouldn't give it to me, and then he said he was dead, so I was like, let me out, and he reached for the gun and then jumped out of the car.
It is very clear, based on the evidence that we collected at this particular crime scene, that Madison, through divine intervention, is alive. We discover that there were 2 unspent .22 cartridges lying in the road. It's only that the gun jammed, not once but twice, that she's able to make it to this house alive.
Nobody knew I left the party that I was at. So if his gun didn't jam up, he would have just left me. No one would have known anything.
Investigators are able to determine that it's a .22 cartridge manufactured by the CCI company.
Those bullet casings and Madison's details about the van will become more important than police in this area realize.
What kind of car was it?
A van?
What color was the van?
Silver?
Police are searching the area for cameras that may have caught something that could be useful to this investigation.
When they said they were looking for anyone with video, I thought, they're not going to find anyone with video, especially in that stretch where she was.
It's Madison's description of her would-be captor and his silver van that brings detectives here to the Saldini blueberry farms. Locals and visitors come here to pick blueberries, but detectives are picking through surveillance video, hoping security cameras captured that mysterious man and his silver van.
He asked if the cameras were real and if you could see him, so I said, sure, anything you want.
It had 2 security cameras. One that kind of pointed to the semicircle drive they had, and the other that kind of pointed out to the roadway.
And he wasn't up there 4 or 5 minutes. And he says, I see it.
Right there, on that surveillance footage, a silver minivan.
What are the chances the blueberry farm has surveillance video that shows a silver minivan?
The cameras only have a 30-day loop. If a week would have gone by, I think it would have been too late.
It gave really good close-up images of this particular silver minivan.
He turned in on the south drive and went out the north drive.
He turned around in the blueberry farm to go back and watch me.
What did he look like, the man that pulled up?
He was heavier set, and he had dark facial hair and dark hair.
Kind of normal?
Yeah, it looked normal to me.
You didn't think anything of him when you saw him pull up?
He didn't look creepy.
Madison is also able to remember some specific details from inside the van.
In the middle, there was like this little netted thing, so there was a bit of stuff in there. I remember seeing his phone in the net thing, and it was a flip phone, which I thought was really weird because who has flip phones nowadays?
While the video is pretty clear, authorities can't make out the license plate, so they're now searching for a proverbial needle in a haystack. The first step is to identify the van's make and model, and for that, they turn to a local car dealer.
My name is Mike Kring, and I was the owner of Rich's Auto Mart, which was a minivan car lot. I was able to establish that it was a 2004 to 2007 Dodge Caravan. They call it a soccer mom vehicle for a reason. It just was a grocery getter, and they went to soccer games, football games, and families would buy them.
Kring notices the van has some unique features, similar to the ones he demonstrates on this Dodge Caravan.
The door handles were not painted. So these door handles are not painted as well, so that's very similar. So I knew it was an SE package, but I knew it had stow and go seatings. And then they would have a compartment in the floor that you could flip these down and then turn them into the floor. When they're up in this position, the compartment's completely empty to stow whatever you'd like to stow.
More importantly, the moldings on the side of the van and a black antenna catch the minivan expert's eye.
I saw that little antenna that was on the roof, and that told me that van was more than likely made in Canada. Because of that, the detectives were able to involve the Secret Service and find some database that told them how many minivans were in the county that were made in Canada.
And they were able to take the VIN numbers from those vehicles and compare them to registered vans here in Michigan. And then from that, narrow the list down by geographic area.
We were able to establish that there are roughly 33,000 vehicles in the state of Michigan that match those attributes. That's a number now that investigators can take, and they can start ticking off vehicles in Muskegon County. So that's exactly what they do.
And they go from 33,000 silver minivans all the way down to just one. And most importantly, to the man behind the wheel.
In all the different clips and pictures that we had seen, the silver minivan that was dark, shadowy, and they found it.
Now, authorities wanted to see if Madison could confirm this was the man who allegedly attempted to kidnap her, so they put together a photo lineup.
When you saw the pictures that they showed you the lineup, they picked them out like right away?
Yep. They showed the 16-year-old girl, and she said, "That's the man who pointed a gun at me who tried to kill me." And that man was Jeffrey Willis.
Jeff Willis happened to work at this manufacturing plant at the time, and a detective walked through the parking lot, discovered the vehicle, and noticed through the window that this vehicle had cargo netting in the center console area. This netting that had a bunch of stuff in it that seemed to be similar to what Madison had described.
And Jeffrey Willis is a name police have heard before.
3 years earlier, an Exxon gas station employee, Jessica Herringa, vanished. At the time, detectives got a tip about a man named Jeffrey Willis who owned a silver van. So they went to talk to him.
And we asked him how long he's owned his van, if he'd ever been to the Exxon gas station, if he knew Jessica Herringa.
And witnesses in that case described seeing a silver minivan, the same type of minivan detectives recognize on surveillance images from Sodini Blueberries.
It turns out Willis was a regular at the Exxon, and when police catch up to him again, this time it's about the alleged kidnapping of 16-year-old Madison.
We've established that you drive a gray van. What's your side of what happened?
And Willis is about to offer up something jaw-dropping, something that takes the detectives by surprise.
Lady saying that I took her? You think I took her?
The search for a silver minivan linked to an alleged attempted kidnapping leads police to 46-year-old Jeffrey Willis. After Madison picks him out of a photo lineup, police haul him in for questioning.
When Mr. Willis is getting off of work at 6:30 in the morning, he's being pulled over by a state trooper and then ultimately taken into custody. His van is then secured and taken to a location where it can be searched. He walks in very relaxed, sort of matter of fact.
Jeffrey Willis was a worker at a furniture manufacturer in nearby Spring Lake. He worked the overnight shift.
He was well under the radar. He had no criminal history. He was a middle-aged guy, married.
Kind of your normal, ordinary person in the community. You're a regular guy next door.
Willis grew up in Michigan, attending high school in Muskegon County. He has a daughter from a previous relationship.
Turns out he's also a grandfather.
He has no criminal history, but a work history of being a janitor at 2 local elementary schools back in the 90s. According to school district records, Willis was eventually fired for allegedly using a school computer to look at adult websites.
He appears to want to cooperate. You know, it's like, oh man, what's this all about? And yet he finds the opportunity to make small talk or even flirt a little bit with the female detective.
Familiar.
I do?
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
While police are questioning him, Willis makes a surprising admission. He tells them he was questioned back in 2013 about the unsolved disappearance of Jessica Herringa at the Exxon gas station.
I got bugged about the other one too, so.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, they're doing their routine.
Yeah. As far as so someone actually came to your house.
Oh, I just come to the house and
Ask me some questions.
Back in 2013, I told him that we're investigating silver vans and registered owners that are in the area due to the Jessica Herring investigation. He said he had heard about that and understood.
Receipts show that Willis was actually a regular at the Exxon, and many of his visits happened during Jessica's shifts, including on the very night she disappeared.
He had actually stopped into the gas station that night, and Jessica was working, and he recalls seeing her there. He said that he didn't have a relationship with her, didn't talk to her a lot, just had seen her working in the gas station.
Remember, police were talking to many potential suspects, and when they searched it, Willis's van appeared clean.
We asked if we could see it. It was empty, and it smelled of cleaning products.
I asked him about what he was doing that night.
He had an alibi. He was home with his wife. He was at the gas station earlier in the evening, but at that time he was home.
They did a really good job at that point in time of following up and helping establish his relationship or what he had done that night.
I was angry, I was emotional, I was upset about what we might have stopped had we brought him in, sat him down, polygraphed him, and went at him.
They had him right there. He was right under their noses. But if you don't have evidence, how can you arrest him?
They're not to be blamed for not having arrested him initially because they didn't have probable cause initially. It happens often that police speak to suspects in these kinds of cases early in a spree like this and only come back to a suspect later.
But Madison Nygaard's alleged attempted kidnapping puts Jeffrey Willis back on police's radar. And now they're grilling him about his whereabouts on that morning.
going home. I don't know.
We know that you were at Riverside Road.
Okay.
That girl was stationary in that area.
Okay.
At about the same time that we were there.
So you're saying that I took her? You think I took her?
We want to know what happened.
I can't tell you. I don't know. I wasn't there. Did you? Listen, you know. I mean, I wasn't there with whatever happened to her. That's what I'm telling you. I might have been there. I wasn't wherever I was.
Willis's comfortable demeanor changes when detectives tell him they have his minivan on surveillance video.
Why were you?
I don't know. I was up there for... I don't know. I was up there.
Obviously something happened out there. All right. Where you go from? I was home.
Well, you asked me where I went, and I said, I don't know. I honestly...
I know, I got my oil change, and I might have been up north like this. And I'm not trying to...
If I get up and walk out, you're going to slam me down.
No, I just...
Jeffrey Willis heads for the door.
Well, then I'm going to walk.
Just relax. You ready with me? Just sit down, please. Will you please sit down? Okay? Listen, I'm trying to tell you, all right? I'm going to go. We're not here to have a kissing match with you. I got a couple more things to say, and I want you to hear me out, all right? Okay? It's that simple.
Investigators tell Willis that he is not free to leave, and not only that, but they are searching his home and that silver minivan.
They got the 2 search warrants. Oh, and boy.
Willis seems worried about what police will find.
May I ask what you're searching for?
And what they're about to uncover would shock even the most seasoned investigator. Evidence of a dark, double life.
It makes me shudder. I get goosebumps to think what they found.
Detectives have been talking to Jeffrey Willis for hours about the alleged kidnapping of Madison Nygaard, and now they tell him they're also searching his home and his van.
The search? What's the search for? It wasn't just petting. I was petting down to get all the stuff there back to the van. No, search at the house and the car. Evidence. Always evidence. Well, I didn't think you looked for something.
It turns out that model of minivan had hidden compartments.
And in that, they find this metal toolbox that is padlocked, that's locked.
And the things that were in the toolbox are disgusting.
We find things that you would use in a bondage situation, like chains and rope, what they call a J-hook, which is something that you hang from the rafters and you kind of, hook a rope or chain to, so you're kind of dangling with your arms spread. They also find some rubber gloves.
There were syringes. Along with the syringes were vials of insulin.
So on the inside cover of this toolbox is a small laminated diagram of a human body.
That's a medical diagram on where to inject someone with insulin. So it's a diagram of a human torso showing the injection points.
And so ultimately, he had this map, if you will, of where, if I wanted a low dose, where would I inject somebody? If I wanted a high dose or something to move rapidly, where would I inject somebody in order to make that happen? Insulin, for a non-insulin taking person, can have some very detrimental effects. It can literally render you unconscious. It was at that point in time that light bulbs started and bells and whistles started going off of, holy cats, what have we stumbled upon here?
Investigators also find a second box in the minivan hidden under the driver's seat. And in this one, they find a gun, a Walther P22.
It's a different gun from the Bursa 380 Willis told police about during his interrogation.
I own a 380, Bursa 380.
Also found in the secret lockbox is a box of .22 caliber CCI brand ammunition.
We recovered the 22 casings from Rebecca Bletch's scene.
The lab was able to conclusively show that the shell casings and bullet fragments collected at the Rebecca Bletch scene were fired from the gun that was recovered from Jeff Willis's van.
So bingo. That's when they started to put everything together, when it all started to add up.
Now, investigators have evidence connecting Jeffrey Willis to both Jessica Haringa's disappearance and Rebecca Bletch's murder.
We get a search warrant, we go back to this house.
During the search of Willis's house, investigators speak to his wife.
She had no idea about anything nefarious that he was involved in. There was nothing that suggested to her that there was anything creepy, weird, or evil going on in Jeff's life.
In the second search warrant on his house, we found a hard drive that was hidden.
We checked the ductwork, and up inside the furnace cold air return, stuck to the wall, was a portable hard drive.
In his hard drive, they discovered a file folder labeled VICS, V-I-C-S. Inside that folder, there were two subfolders. One containing the initials of Rebecca Bletch, the other containing the initials of Jessica Haringa. VICS, we automatically assume stand for victims.
Jessica Lynn Haringa. And in that folder was all these little, pictures of her. Things from the internet, things from the news. Anything that he found, he would put in that folder. The other one was R.B. Rebecca Bletch. And in there was all these pictures, different pictures, and different articles of her.
While we were at his home, doing the search warrant there and talking with his wife, we learned about the Bailey Street address, which was his grandfather's home that he had access to. And his grandfather was deceased, so he had pretty much sole access to that property. There was a significant amount of bleach bottles in the basement of this house, to the point where you would really question why somebody would have that many empty bleach bottles in a rundown, abandoned house.
Jeffrey Willis is accused of the attempted abduction of a 16-year-old girl last month and is under investigation in the murder of Rebecca Bletch 2 years ago and the disappearance of Jessica Haringa.
Willis pleaded not guilty to the attempted abduction of Madison Nygaard.
as they continued to investigate, and they arrested Jeffrey Willis, and they found evidence after evidence after evidence. I mean, it did blow the case wide open.
While Willis sits in jail, the investigation continues. Detectives talk to family and friends, trying to figure out who this guy is.
You're asking, who's Jeffrey Willis? Where'd this guy come from? And interviewing friends and relatives and all that kind of stuff. One of the names that came up was Bloom.
Well, Kevin Bloom is his cousin. They say they were like brothers. They were very close.
We then went to his house, talked to him about, Jeffrey Willis and how do you know him?
And it was really, if anything, what we call a fact witness. Somebody that was really not of interest to us other than that.
Well, then the information came out, I believe, in the news that we located the gun.
Shortly after that, one of the detectives gets a phone call from Mr. Bloom. Mr. Bloom tells this detective, hey, I just wanted to tell you something. I had this really weird dream about handling this particular weapon.
You probably touched it, or you had a dream that you thought you touched it.
Exactly what happened.
So police are now wondering, is it possible their prime suspect, Jeffrey Willis, had a partner in crime? While Willis sits in jail awaiting trial, investigators wanting to learn more about his past track down his cousin and close confidant, a man named Kevin Bloom.
Kevin Bloom, at the time that this was all happening, worked for the Department of Corrections. He was a corrections officer at one of our local prisons here in town. He was talked to just as a witness that might be familiar with Jeff Willis.
We then went to his house, talked to him about, Jeffrey Willis. How do you know him? Well, I haven't seen him in a long time. And we didn't think much about it. It's like, okay.
What's really interesting about this is that shortly after that interview, one of the detectives gets a phone call from Mr. Bloom. Mr. Bloom tells this detective, hey, I just wanted to tell you something. I had this really weird dream about handling this particular weapon and Jeff being there.
I think I might have touched that gun. You think you might have touched the gun? Yeah, I'm not sure if I touched it or it was in a dream, but I think I touched it. So I'm not sure. And she played it cool. She goes, oh, okay, well, we'll come over and talk to you about it.
This detective had been around for a while, and the red flags just went screaming off in her head.
Basically, the two detectives go, we're not buying this. Would you do a polygraph?
He was interviewed for a long period of time. He had taken a polygraph. He had failed.
But Kevin Bloom continues to talk to police and eventually tells them that his cousin Jeffrey Willis told him that he was the person who abducted and killed Jessica Herringa.
I get a call at about 2 in the morning at home from the detectives. And they said, you need to get here. He's starting to talk about Herringa and what they did with the body. I was like, this can't be happening. Do I finally have somebody talking?
Let's go back to that gun case first. So that's the only time I've ever seen him have hair.
He had told them that he was around Saturday night when he saw Jessica, or saw a body at the grandpa's house, and he believes that he might have seen that she was dead and helped him move the body.
He said, if you don't do this, I'm going to end up hurting your family. And then I come down and helped him wrap her up, and he carried her into his van.
He's crying. He's emotionally upset. He's saying he didn't kill her, but he was there.
And he states that he was with Jeffrey Willis when he buried her body, and that he knew where her body was buried.
I felt confident. I didn't think anybody would be lying about this.
So he talks about getting rid of the body and how they carried her out in a gray sheet out to the van.
I opened the van and I followed him, and then we went here and we put her somewhere in there.
I felt like I finally have a witness to this. I said, well, can you bring me to the body? He said, absolutely, I can do that. I thought, okay, finally, we're going to have really good closure all the way around. So we go out there, brought out cadaver dogs from the state police, and everybody's got a shovel and, looking. And we're walking up and down and up and down. He goes, I just can't remember. So I went in there and I confronted him.
I thought you would have found her. No, I did not find her. No. And goes, okay, if I found her, it'd be bringing you home again. That's what I'd be doing.
And he stopped, he looks, and he goes, I'm lying. I go, I know you're lying. I go, let's get to the truth.
So you were there that nothing, all of this was a lie.
And he goes, no, I'm lying about everything. I wasn't at Jeffrey. I didn't see the body. I didn't move the body. Everything he retracted.
He just said he made it up.
So it doesn't happen very much. It's not that common that somebody makes up a story or puts themselves directly involved in it.
So he was charged with lying and then accessory after the fact. He was convicted of both.
In those interviews he did with police, he also mentioned Rebecca Bletch. He didn't implicate himself in her murder, and he was never charged in relation to the case. But it did leave Rebecca's sister Jessica wondering if maybe he knew more about what happened to her than he'd said.
So I went to the jail to talk to him.
Who's this?
I'm Rebecca Bletch's sister.
Hi.
He just kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Can you tell me anything?
All I'm gonna say is the police were wrong when they investigated me. And when they questioned me that day, they questioned me so hard.
I lied. I made it up. I'm not the kind of person. I didn't know anything about it.
All made up.
What were you hoping to get from him talking to him in jail?
You know more than you're telling us. I don't know what I wanted. I just felt I needed to go see him and see what information he would give me.
It's time for Jeffrey Willis's day in court. And at the Rebecca Bletch trial, he surprises everybody by taking the stand to testify.
We're never told whether a defendant's going to testify.
Mr. Willis, you're charged with this case about killing Miss Bletch. Did you in fact do that?
Nobody does that. That's not normal. What he thought was funny. Nobody was buying that line.
Jeffrey Willis has now been charged with the murders of both Jessica Haringa and Rebecca Bletch. He pleads not guilty to both, and his first trial up is the Bletch case.
It's not just another murder and it's not just another trial. It was a big stage. There were a lot of people paying attention.
The physical evidence was better in the Rebecca Bletch case. Part of the forensic examination of the handgun and athletic type gloves, we were able to find blood in various locations, and that blood matched the DNA profile of Rebecca Bletch.
Prosecutors made a very smart strategic decision to try Rebecca Bletch's murder case first. There they had a body, and they could prove up the facts very clearly for first-degree murder.
They called to the stand Kevin Bloom. At the time, the defense was, I didn't do it, I being Jeff Willis, but my cousin did. We knew going into this that because Kevin had his own case going at the time, that he was not going to testify in fear of incriminating himself, and so he took the fifth.
Kevin Bloom had an alibi for the Bletch murder and was never charged in connection with that crime in any way.
He was a non-player in this. He wasn't a person who was going to impact the outcome for my client one way or the other.
When Willis appears in court, he looks like a different man than the one who sat in the interrogation room a year earlier.
He looked different. He'd lost a lot of weight, and now he was trimmed and fit.
You may call your next witness, Mr. Johnson.
Your Honor, we call Jeffrey Willis to the stand. In the Bletch case, we put my client on the stand.
The defendant almost never takes the witness stand in a criminal case. To see Jeff Willis get up on the witness stand and try and talk his way out of a conviction is pretty astounding.
The penalty for first-degree murder in this state
is you spend the rest of your life in prison and with no possibility of getting out.
Please have a seat, state your name for the record.
Jeffrey Thomas Willis. When you have that much on the line, ultimately you leave that call to him.
Mr. Willis, you're charged with, in this case, killing Miss Blanche. Did you in fact do that?
I did not. I did not kill Miss Blanche. I wasn't even there. I was home.
Do you have any other recollections about that day in general?
Well, I cut the grass that day. Between 4 and, I want to say 6:30. I was cutting the grass.
The problem with it is, once you take the stand, you got to answer questions too. And if you have a highly skilled prosecutor, as they did, he's going to have some questions that you may not want to have asked.
And there's nobody else that can verify that but you.
Well, my wife, she was home.
By this time, Willis and his wife had divorced.
Over 3 years have passed. His wife doesn't remember. And she doesn't remember whether he was home or not. She has no real independent memory about that particular evening.
So, what I'm saying is, if your wife has no recollection of that, the only one that can verify that is you.
Yeah, I guess.
I remember when he got on the stand, he said when they asked him about the toolbox in his van, he chuckles, oh, it's kind of a funny story.
My grandson would come over on Wednesdays.
That toolbox is full of adult toys. And he laughs it off like, oh, my grandson got into there.
So I put it in the van. That's how it ended in the van.
Nobody does that. That's not normal. Just to laugh it off like he's so innocent to that jury. Nobody was buying that line.
Do you think he was trying to be charming?
Yeah.
A complete debacle on the witness stand. Not charming, not convincing, and not telling the truth.
Ultimately, the jury deliberates for about 90 minutes.
You have given the signal that you've arrived at a verdict.
And they find him guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Rebecca Blanche.
With one trial finished, Willis's defense now prepares for the next, the murder of Jessica Haringa.
If you read those two trials, the evidence coming in is almost identical in both cases. You try again and see if you can't figure out a different argument that might be more effective this time.
I believe you will have information that paints him as an evil person, and that may be your judgment. But you will not have evidence that he killed or kidnapped Miss Harrington.
The victim's body is never discovered. So under those circumstances, we're able to pursue the argument that the person is not deceased.
The prosecutors have some powerful evidence, and they tell jurors about those pieces of plastic and batteries from a laser sight found at the Exxon station where Jessica vanished. They explain that the gun recovered from Jeffrey Willis's van was originally sold with a laser sight on it, but when the gun was recovered, that laser sight was missing.
Usually you can't talk about a defendant's prior alleged bad acts to prove that he did the bad act in this case. But there are exceptions.
In this case, the judge allows prosecutors to call Madison Nygaard, the 16-year-old police say Willis attempted to abduct. Not only does she help establish a pattern of behavior on Willis's part, but she is also able to link him to that silver minivan. Because she was a minor at the time, she was not shown on camera.
Jeffrey Willis pulled up?
Did you know Mr. Willis?
No. The first time I had to testify, I sat outside and cried, and I was like, I do not want to do this. I don't want to. I had to do it.
Were you scared?
I was still scared, yeah.
What did you do?
I unlocked the door and jumped out.
This child being traumatized, that was the bit of evidence, I think, which locked them into a course that we couldn't turn the ship around.
Please rise. Remember Jeffrey Thomas Willis, count one, on murder, guilty of first-degree murder.
It almost seems unreal. We're looking at a guy that's a potential serial killer that, at a minimum, has killed 2 people, was probably in line to kill a third.
They never did a trial for your case. No. The prosecutor said it's a waste of their time. He's already going away for life.
What would you have liked to have seen happen?
I think I would have just liked to have the option of things. Yeah, that was kind of like a huge slap in my face.
Madison had played a key role up to this point, but he had been convicted of 2 separate counts of first-degree murder. So he's essentially going to die in prison. Ultimately made the decision that there wasn't a need to move forward with the criminal prosecution.
At the sentencing, the victim or her family is allowed to look the defendant in the eye and tell him, this is what you did to my loved one, this is what you did to me.
I was looking forward to him being there to hear what I had to say.
But Jeffrey Willis had one last sickening surprise in store. About 6 weeks after Willis is found guilty of murdering Rebecca Bletch, he's sentenced, a standard part of any trial. But this time, it's different.
Usually at the sentencing, the victim comes in, or her family, is allowed to look the defendant in the eye, and you get to tell him, this is what you did to my loved one, this is what you've done to her children, this is what you did to me. Mr. Willis knew that was coming.
I get approached by his lawyer, who basically says, hey, my client doesn't want to be present.
Not a venue approach. Your Honor, it is the position of the defense that we are hereby requesting that my client be allowed to leave these proceedings at this juncture.
In my 24 years of doing this, this was a first for me.
I desire to be relieved.
That was a moment I had waited 2 years for. To have my chance to look him in the eyes and talk to him and say what I wanted to say. Not only is it my time, but I was looking forward to him being there to hear what I had to say.
The victim's family is sitting there, and he looks over at them, and he blows a kiss to them.
Oh, Adrian, blow a kiss. You blow a kiss.
Hold it. You gotta quiet now.
When he blew the kiss in your direction, shock. I couldn't believe it. Again, he got his way and got to walk out and not listen to us.
It's one of the lowest points in my career. It was just a horrible thing to do. It was just a horrible thing to do.
Shortly after the sentence, the sheriff came to me and said, hey, look, do you think there would be an issue if, when we transport Mr. Willis, that on that trip, if my guys just played the victim impact statement the entire trip? I said, I see no issue with that. Go for it.
He claims that he's not a monster, but his actions speak louder than words.
They played it loud.
She was amazing, inside and out.
She was easy to love, and people wanted to be around her.
And they played it for him over and over again. He didn't stand up there and take it, but he heard it.
Your 3 names are always connected. You were the reason that they figured all this out.
For a long time, I know everyone would be like, you're like a hero, but they solved it. And I was like, I didn't want to be the one to solve it. I didn't want to go through that. I mean, it feels good that I'm the one that got away, but I wish it didn't happen.
For their part, Jessica Herringa's family didn't support Willis's prosecution and have never believed he's the person responsible for her abduction and murder.
The family they still have their Facebook page. They still, help us find Jessica. They still have not acknowledged that Jeffrey Willis had anything to do with her disappearance or her death. They're still holding out hope that she might come home.
So this is a memorial that was set up for Becky after she passed. A friend of the family made the cross. So the plaque says, Becky Bletch, 1977 to 2014. And then it says sister next to it with a heart and an infinity sign on it. When I'm in the area, I try to stop, share a little moment with her, and let her know I'm thinking of her. We haven't forgotten her.
We should point out tonight that she's now remembered in a new Michigan law, the Rebecca Bletch law, which ensures that a defendant is present in the courtroom when a victim impact statement is read.
And as for that silver minivan, which played such a big role in the case, a judge ruled that it could be sent to a scrapyard where it's now been destroyed. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir from all of us here at 2020 and ABC News. Good night. The mother who faked her daughter's illnesses put her daughter in a wheelchair, the daughter convicted of murdering her mom.
What that daughter, Gypsy Rose, told me in her very first sit-down interview after prison. 2020 starts right now.
Happy endings are not just in fairy tales.
You're the reason I was born to be your mom.
I want to escape.
Many people just can't understand why you didn't just get up and walk out of that wheelchair. You weren't sick. Why didn't you just do that?
This case went from, where is sweet little Gypsy Rose, to find out that, hey, Gypsy can walk, and hey, her boyfriend is there, and everything started unraveling.
A desperate search right now for a mother and daughter.
Dee Dee's in bed, but she's stabbed multiple times.
You know, we just couldn't put it together why somebody would kill Dee Dee and take a handicapped child.
The girl looked 12, sounded 5, and had a 40-year-old attitude.
We started hearing that she was actually involved in this somehow.
Do you know what happened? You were there, okay?
Wait, no.
Yes, you were. You were there.
She wasn't sick. She never was.
There were the feeding tubes, the scars, countless prescriptions. All of it was a lie.
Wow. Wow.
A lot of people are looking forward to hearing you speak.
I know.
The daughter abused by her own mother, that daughter then convicted in her mother's murder. Tonight here, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is now out of prison.
Today, Gypsy Rose Blanchard shared this photo with a caption, quote, "First selfie of freedom."
Gypsy Rose Blanchard's story is a true crime phenomenon. You've got murder, deception, and romance. And now the woman behind the headlines is out of prison and grabbing attention in a new way.
Hey everyone, this is Gypsy. I'm finally free.
Nearly 20 million followers and counting on social media. Paparazzi following her every move.
Do you have any plans?
Lots of.
Major magazine cover and all kinds of TV appearances. Gypsy has agreed to sit down with me for her first TV interview just days after her release. What do you want people to know most about the Gypsy who's sitting here right now?
I think don't judge me because you haven't walked a mile in my shoes.
Before so many became captivated by Gypsy, this strange and twisted story had a different kind of obsession.
So where are you going today? I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital to see my dentist. On my teeth.
She was like one of the happiest people I had ever met, and yet she was the most sick that I had ever met at the same time.
Gypsy and her multiple illnesses and diseases. She had muscular dystrophy, leukemia. She had learning disabilities, had not been able to be out of a wheelchair. I think everybody felt so much for Gypsy, this poor girl who has so many things wrong with her, and this wonderful mother who does everything for Gypsy.
Dee Dee was a very protective but kind and gentle mother. You could tell that they were there for each other and they were very attached at the hip.
Dee Dee is a local pageant queen from Lafourche Parish, Louisiana. She worked as a nurse's aide. At age 23, she met 17-year-old Rod Blanchard.
She was real nice, Southern. She knew how to cook. She seemed like a really nice, sweet, genuine young lady.
Just 3 months into their relationship, Dee Dee discovers she's pregnant.
Parents raised me, that's the right thing to do, so I didn't even question. I just said, wow, you're pregnant? Really? I guess we're gonna get married,
The newlyweds soon welcome a baby girl.
Perfectly healthy, pretty little baby. Named her Gypsy Rose. I was excited and very scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I'm 18 years old and I got a baby here, so.
You wanna blow me a kiss?
Nothing wrong with her. She's perfect.
Go bring me a flower. Hey. Go bring me more flowers.
Hey, Gypsy.
Rod and Dee Dee eventually split up. She takes primary custody of Gypsy, and Rod soon remarries a woman named Christy.
So it took her a little while to warm back up to Rod. Finally got to go visit and everything with them, and it not be odd.
I think we had some good visits, some good times. Gypsy was probably 7, 8 years old. Dee Dee was saying that she was sick, problems sleeping, epilepsy, and it just progressed from there. Leukemia, paralyzed, muscular dystrophy, and she would have seizures. She's in a wheelchair now, she needs a feeding tube. I told Dee Dee she was the best mother. There's no way I can do what you do. You have a sick child, it's constantly 24/7 taking care of her and everything. I always praised her and told her, good job.
In 2005, Gypsy and Dee Dee were dealt another cruel blow.
Katrina came and wiped them out. Wiped so many people out.
Emergency authorities are now driving through the city where they're picking up families in boats.
I had it on the screen on TV, looking for them, trying to find them, because we didn't know where they were.
When the hurricane occurred, they went to a special needs shelter in northern New Orleans and remained there, and that's where the Mercy Hospital folks here in Springfield that ultimately flew them up here after the hurricane.
Well, I'm the Greene County Sheriff in the city of Springfield. This is known as the Bible Belt, and we have lots of churches. This town is a very giving town. Here you have a mother and a disabled child in a wheelchair that can't walk with no means of paying for anything. So this community does what it does best and provided everything that they could think of it.
After they relocate to Springfield, Dee Dee and Gypsy strike up an instant bond with hospital employees Marcia Smith and Laura Nixdorf.
This one says, Happy Mother's Day, Nona. We love you so much. She called me Nona, which is grandmother in Italian, and I felt like I was her grandmother.
Eventually, Dee Dee and Gypsy find a place to call home. It's at the intersection of Hope Road and Volunteer Way.
The Blanchards moved into that house, built by Habitat for Humanity. A wheelchair ramp was built just for her.
It is the perfect town. The perfect place.
I think it was a blessing in disguise. It took something like a hurricane to make us have a happy ending.
They were just really nice, great people, and everybody just was really excited to be around them.
The community really embraced them, got them a house, and it wasn't just a house. There were trips, there were Disney trips.
Make-A-Wish, we're taking her down to Orlando, all expenses paid and everything.
In between hospital visits, Gypsy is hitting the charity circuit, and she's rubbing elbows with all kinds of celebrities.
Miranda Lambert came to Springfield a few times, and I think she gave Dee Dee and Gypsy money
There were fundraisers. They were brought in to speak and for Gypsy to sing at Relay for Lives.
You're the reason I was born to be your mama.
They were local darlings. I mean, they were the shining star in this town of people who can outlast adversity and get through everything.
Dee Dee and Gypsy rebuild their lives and find a community in Springfield. But everything is about to change. And it all begins with one shocking Facebook post.
It said, "The bitch is dead."
What is going on?
It starts out as a strange Facebook message. And just when you thought you could figure out what was happening, something else comes to light.
Dee Dee and Gypsy, they were known in this community. Every time you saw them, it was just the two of them. And you felt for them.
It just proves that happy endings are not just in fairy tales, they're real and true in real life also.
On their shared Facebook page, the two keep family and friends updated on everything from scheduled surgeries for Gypsy to the local science fiction convention.
Gypsy just tried to enjoy life as much as she could. I mean, she enjoyed Disney, she enjoyed dressing up, and she just had fun.
So on June 14th, 2015, people are stunned when a post pops up on the duo's Facebook page.
It said, "The bitch is dead."
I instantly took it as their Facebook account had gotten hacked.
Then we saw the second one, which said, "And I raped her sweet daughter too."
So we hopped in our vehicle and we drove over here. We pulled in and we realized that the vehicle was still here. We circled the house, knocked on all the doors and windows.
I called the police and let them know that we needed a wellness check done on a disabled mother and daughter. And they said that they would send somebody out.
David notices the kitchen window is open and decides to crawl into the house.
It was extremely dark inside. There were no lights on. It was very cold. In the living room, Gypsy's electronic wheelchair was still in there, along with the push wheelchair. Noticed that there was a wheelchair in the bathroom. I made it to Gypsy's room, and everything looked perfectly fine.
We had never seen Gypsy not in a wheelchair. So the fact that they were not home and the three wheelchairs were still there was completely wrong to me. That was my panic moment.
I turned around to look in Dee Dee's room, and it was extremely dark in there. And I definitely had a feeling of, don't go in here. There's no need to go in here.
A desperate search right now for a mother and daughter who vanished from their home. 48-year-old Dee Dee and 19-year-old Gypsy Blanchard both have medical issues, and neither has been seen since last week.
Later that evening, law enforcement get a search warrant and enter Dee Dee's bedroom.
Dee Dee's in bed. It was absolutely a brutal death. 14 stab wounds to the back. That's usually a crime of passion, so we knew there was some connection, but we had no idea what it is.
Obviously, our primary concern at that point was, where was the daughter? Where was Gypsy at?
So now what started off as an endangered persons advisory has turned into a homicide investigation.
At the time, they were local celebrities, so we went out there. Rain was coming down really heavy that night, and I was one of the first reporters out there. This is the house where Claudinia Blanchard was found stabbed to death. The crime tape was up around the house, and you just can't forget that pink house with the wheelchair ramp.
I see a stretcher come out of the house, and there's a sheet over a body, and I just start sobbing. That was Dee Dee.
So then we really panicked because, oh my gosh, somebody has kidnapped Gypsy.
News of the tragedy spreads throughout Springfield and soon makes its way to Louisiana.
I was shocked. I was like, what? Really? I couldn't understand it. I called Christy. I was crying to Christy, and, we just couldn't put it together why somebody would kill Dee Dee and take a handicapped child.
Why would somebody do this to this child? No wheelchair, no medication. They could just leave her for dead.
I brought deputies out on horseback. We started combing the area. We had citizen volunteers help. Everybody was looking for Gypsy Rose and wanted her to be home safe. So the whole community was panicked. What if this is not a single incident? What if we have a killer out roaming in our community? If they will kill this lovely woman and abduct her handicapped child, what are they capable of?
Well, the prevailing rumor was that Gypsy was dead, that they were going to find her body somewhere just as they had found the mom. So it wasn't looking good at that time.
We had gotten information that a friend of hers that Gypsy would talk to quite a bit. They would communicate back and forth. She had some information that she wanted to share with us that might help. So I responded to her house.
And so he got there and he started taking photos of my phone in the messages.
Gypsy's friend Aaliyah reveals to Lieutenant Hancock that, unbeknownst to Dee Dee, Gypsy had been living a secret life online and exchanging messages with a number of men.
She had mentioned that there was a male that Gypsy had talked about and was considering possibly marrying, and his name was Nicholas Godejohn.
Nick Godejohn is a 26-year-old self-described loner who, like Gypsy, found connection on the internet.
They had met on a Christian dating site and they were going to have a wedding in the snow in a gazebo, just like a whole fairy tale wedding sort of thing, and that they were already planning on naming their children after him.
The first thing that we learned about Nick Godejohn was his criminal history fairly quickly, that he was caught masturbating in a McDonald's. Once we started peeling back his background and his history, looking at some of his communication, he was very dark. Very dark.
But investigators are about to uncover something even more sinister. The source of that Facebook post.
It was such a shock that that message came from there. So that's when we thought something's not right.
Authorities are still looking for Dee Dee's 19-year-old daughter, Gypsy. The pair lived together in that pinkish home you can see just behind me with the wheelchair ramp outside.
Missouri mom Dee Dee Blanchard has been found stabbed to death, and her daughter, Gypsy Rose, is still missing without her wheelchair or her medication. And many are fearing the worst.
As the sheriff, my top priority was to solve it as quick as possible, and we probably had 15 investigators working on different things, pulling everything together.
June 14th, 2100 hours, a search warrant was sought and obtained for the Facebook Dee Dee Gypsy Blanchard. Based off of the Facebook post, that we went and obtained an IP address and obtained an actual address.
Law enforcement are able to trace the IP address of those Facebook posts to a house 600 miles away in Big Bend, Wisconsin. It's the home of Gypsy's online boyfriend, Nick Godejohn.
It was such a shock that that message came from there. Now we're waiting to see what happens next. The deputies from Waukesha County, Wisconsin, set up surveillance on the house.
It was a major SWAT team operation. They had all the rifles drawn. They surrounded the house.
Caught someone walking out, detained them, had a search warrant, went in the house. Gypsy Rose is found alive. We have located Gypsy in another state. She is okay. We do have another person of interest in custody.
Investigators have a lot of questions. Did Gypsy go with Nick to Wisconsin willingly? And did she know about her mother's murder?
I received a call from my supervisor letting me know that we need to get on the plane and get to Wisconsin.
Probably the most unique thing that came out of this.
Gypsy? Is it Gypsy Rose?
She's walking. And we were like, where is sweet little Gypsy Rose? Well, how good is she walking? She walks quite well.
How could a girl who's had so many ailments all of a sudden be up and walking? Investigators need to untangle the truth.
I'm Detective Hancock from the Spring County Sheriff's Office. How are you today? My thought process at that time was, okay, I'll interview Gypsy and I'm going to let the other detective interview Nicholas. And your date of birth, Gypsy?
Is 7/27/1995. On here they have 91.
I wanted to get to the truth of how old she was because she said she didn't know.
Me and my mother are Hurricane Katrina survivors.
Okay.
And my birth certificate was washed away in Katrina.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they messed up. A long time ago, they messed up the paperwork.
I'd been doing this long enough in interviews that I could really pick up on that something just was not right there. Her body language just tells me something's not right.
I would be really 19, but on here it's my Medicaid. My medical insurance has 23.
Okay.
First, investigators learned that Gypsy can actually walk, and now her age is even in question. Her story is getting stranger by the minute.
I always feel like there's just something that she's hiding. She's not forthcoming and truthful at this point. So I pressed on. You need to be honest with me. And if you're involved in anything that I'm about ready to tell you, then you need to tell me. Okay? Your mom's dead. Okay? Now, what I want to ask you is... Your mom's passed away. Okay? And she's deceased. All right? Now, what I want to ask you, did you have involvement in this? Okay? It did not seem genuine to me.
Just a few rooms away, Gypsy's boyfriend, Nick Godejohn, is waiting for his interview.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. You've been here a long time waiting for me to get here?
Oh my gosh, I was not in the room. The other detective was. I'm watching it through a camera.
I guess she's your girlfriend, Gypsy.
Yes, she is. Yes,
And you love her?
Oh, do I love her? He was kind of quiet, reserved a little bit. She started talking.
Apparently from what she told me, her mom kicked her out of her house.
Okay.
So she texted me to pick her up.
Okay.
And what happened was I got on the bus about a day later. As soon as I got there, I walked straight to a hotel and then I let her know that it was a hotel.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then me and her pretty much stayed inside the hotel for pretty much the entire time.
Nick tells investigators that he and Gypsy kept a low profile in a Springfield motel room. But little does he know, the team already tracked their every move.
But we've learned all their movements because, they took a Greyhound bus, they bought tickets. We know that there was some video at a Springfield motel.
There was surveillance footage of them at the Greyhound station getting on the bus, and they were just a normal couple. They had their bags and they were ready to go.
Nicholas was pretty much himself and walks into the bus station. She definitely had a wig and kept her face, pretty much covered with a long wig. Looked like a couple that was on vacation and now they're leaving town to go back to wherever they live.
A local taxi driver remembers the couple very well.
A young woman walked up and asked, could you take us to the Days Inn? And I said, of course. She was in a very dark black hoodie, but she had a very odd looking wig on. It was an old looking Cher wig, which I found very normal. The girl looked 12, sounded 5, and had a 40-year-old attitude. Because she was not afraid to tell me off. I just knew there was something wrong.
To investigators, Nick and Gypsy were like Hansel and Gretel, leaving a trail of clues along the way. Their story wasn't exactly adding up, and it was becoming clear that they knew what happened at that pink house.
She was obviously not wanting to say much about it, but I think she was really understanding that the situation is serious.
What happened with your mom that night?
I want to know why. It's very, very clearly. You think that it's me? Why would you think that it's me? I've always thought my mom and I are best friends.
Listen to me.
We started hearing from various sources that Gypsy wasn't a victim, she wasn't kidnapped, that she made her believe these things that just were not true.
I also had more freedom in prison than I ever had with my mother.
How Dee Dee was able to fool doctors.
When I opened it, my mouth dropped. I was like, holy from the top to the bottom, full of so many medications.
Gypsy, in her own words, her life now. Her new husband.
A lot of people are expressing suspicion about you.
And the secrets she was still keeping. Why reveal it now? Why didn't you say anything about it then?
What Gypsy did was a crime. We cannot imagine the horrors that she went through, but it was still a crime. There's no excuse for committing murder.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard is no longer behind bars.
She's been out of prison just about a week, and Gypsy Rose Blanchard is in New York City.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Gypsy.
Sitting down for her very first televised interview as a free woman.
A lot of people are looking forward to hearing you speak.
I know.
We first met Gypsy Rose years ago. You were incarcerated. Tell me how Gypsy, sitting here, is different from that Gypsy Rose we met all those years ago.
I'm very different. The two are complete polar opposites.
It was 2017. Our cameras pull into Chillicothe Correctional Center, ready to hear Gypsy Rose answer all the questions people have been asking.
This unfolding story is full of mystery, deception, and raising more questions.
At the time of Dee Dee's murder, people were stunned by this brutal crime. A doting mom, dedicated to her ailing daughter's care, killed in bed by her daughter's boyfriend?
And he was
Then she called over Gypsy, but Gypsy didn't do anything.
It begs the question, why? Why would Gypsy pretend she couldn't walk? Why would she want her mother dead? Close friends of the Blanchards feel that Gypsy was preyed upon, manipulated. Is Gypsy a victim, a mastermind, or both?
Best way to describe myself, like an abused dog that was trained to do what she was ordered to do.
Gypsy says she really had to piece together the mysteries of this childhood that was filled with surgeries and medications.
I knew that I didn't need the feeding tube. I knew that I could eat, and I knew that I could walk and didn't need the wheelchair. But I did believe my mother when she said that I had leukemia. I was taking lots of medications that Mom said that they were for cancer. And she would shave my hair off and said, it's gonna fall out anyway, so let's keep it nice and neat.
Gypsy believed wholeheartedly what her mother told her, which most children do. She just took what Dee Dee said as gospel.
We were best friends. I saw her as an angel that can do no wrong. And just believing that she knows best, I didn't question it.
But like most teenagers, as she got older, she says she began to push back.
She wants to get out. Ain't gonna happen.
Gypsy says she wasn't even sure exactly how old she was.
It was a good span of time between, I want to say 2001 to 2015 that I really wasn't sure of my age. I stopped asking because Mom got upset about it.
By the time that she finally hit puberty and started to become, her own person, she realized that maybe what Mom's saying is not right.
She says she and her mom clashed over typical things like dating and boys.
It could be something where she wouldn't feed me for 2 days or so.
She had run away, and Dee Dee found her in 4 hours.
physically chained me to the bed and put bells on the doors and told all of anybody that I probably would have trusted that I was going through a phase.
That was Dee Dee's way of making sure you were going to stay my sweet little girl that's in my control.
It does seem like that Gypsy's mother's whole life was revolved around being the mother of Gypsy. And Gypsy didn't have any place to turn. I haven't seen, personally, a case in which there was that much control.
Gypsy says she continued using secret accounts, eventually meeting Nick Godejohn on that Christian dating website. He even traveled to Springfield to meet her at a movie theater. And what was playing? Cinderella.
She would be dressed as Cinderella, and he would be dressed as her Prince Charming.
She says she was too scared to tell her mom about Nick, so they hatched a plan. Pretend they were strangers who just happened to meet at the theater. In their minds, Dee Dee would likely give her blessing for them to see each other again. That did not happen.
She had ordered me to stay away from him in the movie theater, and I disobeyed. I sat right next to him, and that made her more angry. And so, when the movie was over, she stormed out.
And at home, Gypsy says the fallout was severe.
Throwing things, breaking things, smashing things of mine, calling me names. Bitch, slut, whore.
But that didn't stop Gypsy's relationship with Nick from intensifying. There was role-playing, trading suggestive photos and messages.
Crazy wigs and sexy outfits and licking a knife. This was all going on as her mother slept online.
At the time that she took those photos, she would have been 22 or 23, which is not unusual for a normal, healthy woman to do. But, she'd been infantilized so much that people immediately looked at that as a negative aspect.
She was in love with him. She thought that he was going to be the prince that came and finally saved her and got her out of her locked tower. And they'd live happily ever after.
The investigation into Dee Dee's murder had really uncovered some pretty damning evidence against Gypsy. Remember, she admitted to paying for all those bus tickets and giving Nick the knife the night of the murder.
I wanted to go help her so bad, but I was so afraid to get up. It's like my body wouldn't move. It's like it happened, but it was happening to somebody else, or like a dream or a nightmare. It's like it wasn't real.
Well, I think some people believe she found the perfect patsy in Nicholas Godejohn as someone to do her dirty work.
I would never kill somebody. That's why I asked him to. I'd like to think there's a big difference between someone who asks someone to kill someone and someone that actually does it.
And the question now becomes, would a court of law agree?
How did you plead to the Class A felony of murder?
There are people out there that believe that she couldn't escape unscathed from growing up with that kind of a manipulator, that she learned from Dee Dee how to get people to do what you want them to do.
Unraveling Gypsy and Dee Dee's past is only just beginning.
Dee Dee was arguably one of the greatest con people I will probably ever see or hear.
Deceiving local charities, deceiving businesses. It was incredible.
And I was like, holy y'all need to get it over here right now and look at this.
It is the perfect town, the perfect place.
To understand the depths of Dee Dee Blanchard's deception and build a case for his client, Gypsy's public defender, Mike Stanfield, begins at the scene of the crime in that little pink house at the intersection of Hope Road and Volunteer Way.
The house was a disaster. The first thing that really stood out to us was the number of wheelchairs that we encountered inside Gypsy's house. I believe we found 4 different wheelchairs.
I could tell Dee Dee did a lot of just hoarding and stuff piled up. I mean, like chest high to the back of the room.
When we went into Dee Dee's room, the ceremonial check from Miranda Lambert was just lying on the ground. She had acquired all of these things over all these years, but they didn't seem to really hold any value. The final thing that really stuck out was the closet.
When I opened it, I was like, holy, my mouth dropped. From the top to the bottom, full of so many medications.
She had even written on several of the bottles of Gypsy's medication as if she was writing it for a child. For the anti-seizure medication, it would say, shaky baby. In every other area of Dee Dee's life, it appeared that she had absolutely no organization or cleanliness, except when it came to these medications. That was an indicator to me that something was seriously wrong.
The only thing that I have wrong with me is I have a little bit of a lazy eye. I have better vision in this eye than I do that eye. That's it.
It's becoming more and more obvious that the abuse is the central focus of what is going on. And so after investigating as much as I could investigate in Springfield, I needed to speak to the rest of her family.
That meant a trip down to Louisiana, where Dee Dee first met Gypsy's father, Rod, and where Gypsy's family still lived.
In the early days, nothing was out of place. It was just, your average Joe family.
Hey, Gypsy, I love you.
The weird stuff didn't take till later.
She started on Gypsy at an early age. Young. More or less like, getting her programmed.
Gypsy, where's your noggin? Where's your gluteus maximus? And where's your vendalis? Very good.
Gypsy says she had all kinds of surgeries she didn't need on her eyes, on her stomach. She had teeth pulled, even surgery to remove her salivary glands.
She put Orajel on my mouth. And I didn't know that then, but I know why now. And it was because Orajel numbs your gums and you drool.
This is coming up to Lady of the Sea Hospital. It's where Dee Dee and Christy worked together.
She was nurse's aide. I was a med-surg tech, and we meshed really well. It worked out good until she found out Rod and I were dating.
Gypsy's parents were no longer together. Rod said he tried to stay in his daughter's life, but says Dee Dee never let him get too close.
All the visits, Dee Dee had to be there the whole time. Something never felt right about it. Just Dee Dee was so controlling of her. All the while, she's telling people that I'm abusive, I abandoned them. I did all I could for them. I had a court order to keep medical insurance on her. Every company I worked for had insurance. She was on the insurance, and I paid child support. I raised my child support on my own as I made more money.
The hardest part of this case was when I had to explain to her that her father didn't abandon her and show her the receipts from where her dad had been paying child support most of her life. Her entire life had been a lie.
I know now that he would try to come and visit me, and he would try to call, but Mother would just ignore the calls, delete the calls, tell me that on my birthday, oh, he forgot your birthday again. It would make her seem like the better parent because she would be there with a cupcake. I remembered your birthday. He didn't, but I did.
As Stanfield Springfield digs into Dee Dee's past, he comes upon a shocking secret. Allegations of Dee Dee's crimes go far beyond Gypsy.
While I was down in Louisiana, Christy had mentioned to me that I needed to speak with the police there. And so I met with one of the senior officers who showed me warrants that Dee Dee had out for her arrest in the state of Louisiana.
From 97 to 2002, she got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Contempt of court.
10 warrants.
And she was writing worthless checks.
They were non-extraditable warrants, which meant as long as she was not in the state of Louisiana, she would not be arrested for them. Every portrayal that I had seen of Dee Dee up to that point was that she was this loving, caring mother. And now all of a sudden, I've got cases for everything from defrauding merchants with bad checks to stealing from her own father. It's just another time where I'm starting to see a bigger picture. One of the big things that we needed to do was to unravel the medical mysteries. What I could never figure out was how it was that Dee never got caught.
My mother was so good at manipulation. She was so good at working it. But what I don't understand is the test results came back normal. When the doctors were looking at these results, how come they didn't report anything then?
So you hold them partly responsible.
I do.
Gypsy came to my office in August 2007 with her mother. I do have regrets. I think I could have maybe saved Gypsy from a few years of suffering.
So where are you going today? I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital.
What I don't understand is the test results of different surgeries and procedures came back normal. I'm completely healthy.
It took me 7 to 8 months to unravel how Dee Dee was able to fool doctors.
And Gypsy saw a lot of doctors, at least 150, according to medical records reviewed by 2020.
I had different doctors, and we usually piggyback appointments. So I'd probably have 2 or 3 in a day. Sometimes I'd have a surgery scheduled as well.
Every single record was full of mother reports this, mom says that. But at only one time did I ever see Gypsy said anything.
It just proves.
Gypsy says her mom often held her hand in public, not to show support or affection, but to squeeze it when she wanted to keep her quiet.
I would have a doll or a stuffed animal that I would play with, and Mom would say, "Don't talk, just play with your stuffed animal, and we'll do something fun after."
I met Gypsy as a pediatric neurologist in Springfield, Missouri in August 2007. My initial assessment, I saw a 14-year-old girl that was sitting in a wheelchair. The mother reported that Gypsy has had muscular dystrophy. She mentioned the word cerebral palsy.
The testing didn't seem to show the same type of disabilities that Gypsy should be showing.
There was nothing there to support either. That kind of made me very suspicious.
Dr. Flesterstein says he told Dee Dee that Gypsy's previous diagnoses were wrong.
But the mother was not happy with that, and she left the office in a storm and told my nurses that I don't know what I'm talking about and that she's not coming back.
At that point, Dee Dee moved all of Gypsy's care from Springfield up to Children's Mercy in Kansas City.
I couldn't prove it, but I became suspicious. I mentioned the possibility of Munchausen by proxy.
Munchausen by proxy refers to a situation in which a caretaker, usually a mother, falsifies illness on behalf of another person, usually her child, in order for that child to be perceived as ill. This is a form of child abuse.
You think about the parent as the ultimate protector.
Right.
How could a parent do this?
All these parents know they're abusing their children. They know they are falsifying the illness. And usually the motivation is to obtain attention or admiration for being the parent of an apparently sick child.
It's one thing for her mother to give a story to the doctors, but when they run blood tests and do brain scans and they see that she's not ill, how do you explain them not challenging her more after that?
There isn't an explanation for that. I tell physicians when we do trainings, if you write in your chart possible Munchausen by proxy, you're writing possible child abuse, and you need to report. It's not a choice, and that's one of the ways that the medical team absolutely failed Gypsy.
What Dee Dee was actually doing was staying one step ahead of the doctors. She would wait until a few weeks after Gypsy's appointment. She would ask for a set of medical records, and if she noticed that the doctor was starting to get suspicious, she would move to a different provider.
When you have a suspicion and you think that harm has been caused, you could consider that a type of child abuse, and you could report that to social services and say, I have a suspicion. I, at the time, did not think that I had enough information just to call.
Dr. Flesterstein didn't report Dee Dee to authorities, but says he did share his suspicions with Gypsy's pediatrician, Dr. Robert Steele, who says he had his own concerns about Gypsy.
I was Gypsy's pediatrician for many years. Over time, my nurse came to me with 3 documents. And on these 3 separate documents, she had 3 separate birthdays. As I began to look at all these diagnoses and the documents with the wrong birth dates, I called the Missouri Department of Family Services, and I said, I am concerned this child has been kidnapped.
In 2009, Child Protective Services visited Dee Dee and Gypsy at home. According to this police report obtained by 2020, a doctor alerted authorities when he could not find any symptoms that would support what Dee Dee alleges to be wrong with her daughter. Caseworkers confirmed Dee Dee and Gypsy's identities and noted that Gypsy's personal and physical needs were being attended to. No further actions were taken.
If you could say anything to Gypsy today, what would it be?
I'd say, I'm sorry I failed you. That's what I would say. I'm really sorry.
Some of your former doctors have talked about your case, and some of them feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
I'm conflicted. Part of me feels that I was failed by the medical system.
So you hold them partly responsible?
I do, and I think that there is a level of responsibility that should be placed on them.
We reached out to Gypsy's primary hospitals in Missouri, and only one responded. In a statement to 2020, Mercy Hospital in Springfield said in part, "We cannot provide details of a patient's treatment. Our prayers are with Ms. Blanchard as she moves forward with her life." Many people just can't understand why you didn't just get up and walk out of that wheelchair. You weren't sick. Why didn't you just do that?
It's painful to talk about because it goes so deep. It's mental, it's emotional, it's physical. I feared more than anything that if I ran away, that things would be worse for me at home.
This abuse starts early, and these children are socialized and live in a culture in which they are supposed to do what they're told. And they've learned that this is the role I play.
She was charged with first-degree murder initially, and first-degree murder only has the one authorized punishment, life without parole. There was not a traditional defense to this. There was not a, she didn't do it. There wasn't a, she had no knowledge. The ultimate resolution was we entered a guilty plea to a reduced charge, which was murder in the second degree.
How did you plead to the Class A felony of murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
She's to be sentenced to 10 years in the Missouri Department of Corrections.
Gypsy takes responsibility for the fact that she did something horrible, heinous. Could a person feel that murder is their only way out in a situation like this?
I think she did. And she'd said it was either her or me. And that's how she felt at the time.
But murder? Killing your mother?
I think about kidnapped victims, and I wonder if people would say the same if a kidnapped victim killed the person that was holding them hostage.
The prosecutor did an excellent job of making sure that justice was served for the community, but also making sure that what Gypsy went through was taken into account.
For Gypsy, prison offered a new lease on life. She made big plans for her future and even revealed a dark secret about her past. Why reveal it now?
There are just many things that I wasn't ready to talk about.
Couple ground rules before we begin.
In 2018, it was Nick Godejohn's turn to face trial. His defense team raised questions about Nick's mental capacity and pointed the finger at Gypsy as the mastermind of the murder.
Whose idea was it to kill your mother?
Mine.
Why did you want to kill your mother?
Because I wanted to be free of her hold on me.
After 2 hours of deliberation,
We, the jury, find the defendant, Nicholas Godejohn, guilty of murder in the first degree.
a guilty verdict and a mandatory life sentence.
I don't hate him. I feel sorry for him. And just that somebody could do something so heartless and not express remorse.
Is it fair that he is incarcerated for life for killing your mom and you're out?
I did my time. He's doing his time for his part, and I wish him well on his journey.
For Gypsy, prison offered a chance at a new life. You felt freer in prison than you had out in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
How so? How is that possible?
Well, I was able to do the simple things like just sitting in the sun, even in a restricted environment. You can make friends, and that is something like I had been kept from my whole life.
Gypsy went into prison with just a second-grade education and earned her GED behind bars. She also sought out therapy. And she filmed a documentary series with Lifetime.
How are you feeling today?
Nervous.
In it, she reveals a secret about her past, an addiction to painkillers.
It took me down a really dark path, but I felt like it was my only way to cope for a time until I was able to take some classes and get better coping skills. And now I'm sober.
Why reveal it now? Why didn't you say anything about it then?
There are just many things that I wasn't ready to talk about at the time.
So when you made this decision to take part in the killing of your mom, were you high?
Yes, I was. I was actually arrested with the pain medication in my bag. I don't blame drugs. There's my perspectives, there's my reasons, but there's no excuse for committing murder.
Despite her conviction for a brutal crime, the public fascination with Gypsy just grew stronger.
The bizarre story of Gypsy and Dee Dee Blanchard continues to intrigue people around the world. People are driving through the North Springfield neighborhood to get a glimpse of the former Blanchard house.
Meanwhile, fan letters poured in to Gypsy's new address in a Missouri prison. In prison, you had a lot of correspondence. You got a lot of letters from a lot of people. Romantic letters as well?
Some romantic letters, a lot of guys trying to get with me.
Did that surprise you?
At first it surprised me, and then when The Act came out, it skyrocketed.
The Act, an Emmy-winning series on Hulu about Gypsy's life.
My mom is my best friend. All she wants to do is keep me safe. Gypsy!
One of those letters was written to you by a guy named Ryan Anderson. Ryan Anderson is a 37-year-old special education teacher, and like Gypsy, is from Louisiana. What led you to write her in prison?
Honestly, it was just out of a whim. And show Tiger King was very popular at the time. And my friend she just kept going on and on. I want to write this person. I want to write it. Finally, I said, I'll tell you what, you write him and I'll write Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
The first time that I talked to him on the phone, I could tell that he was genuine. I have a pretty good judge of character now, and he's just a teddy bear. He's so sweet. Might be in a situation like mine. They don't take the route that I did.
How challenging is it going to be for her to get her balance?
She's a convicted felon. That may get in the way of her being able to work. Certainly, she is in the spotlight, and that puts her at so much risk. But prison was a good place for her. She went into prison with a second-grade education. She came out with a high school equivalency. She came out with a husband. She came out reunited with her family, her very supportive family. These are all very good prognostic factors.
Okay, Instagram's on the home screen.
Okay. Thank you. Aw, that's so crazy.
What are your plans? Do you want to have children?
We've talked about starting a family. We just don't know when at this point. Right now, we're just trying to focus on our marriage and establishing a good marriage before we put kids into it.
Yeah, I think I'm her Prince Charming. I think so.
So this is your happily ever after, the gal who liked being a princess.
It is, yeah. I had to kiss a couple frogs to get to this one. Handsome face.
It's certainly a brand new world for Gypsy. If you're curious about her life after, Lifetime's docuseries, The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, is available now on demand and all direct-to-own platforms.
We should also note tonight that Nicholas Godejan, who committed the murder, is seeking a new trial. He declined our request for an interview. But that was a fascinating interview tonight with Gypsy Rose, Deb. That is 2020 for this evening. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. Thanks so much for watching. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.